It's a hot topic in 2019. What is it about gender roles in children? Let's make a distinction as we begin this video between gender roles and sex or gender identity. Sex is typically associated with the genitalia that children are born with, and there's an assigned sex that is listed on the birth certificate. Gender identity has to do with how children and people develop an identity associated with a gender. Gender roles are those activities or occupations or cultural attachments that are associated with a particular gender. So I wanted to make that little distinction there to begin with. As we make that distinction, let's also agree right here at the beginning of the video that we're going to have a discussion about how these things develop in children without necessarily trying to assert what it should be. Sound good to you? In terms of gender identity, by age 2, children are typically very aware of the physical differences between the sexes. Before age 3, most can easily identify themselves as either being a boy or a girl. And by age 4, most children have a fairly stable sense of their gender identity. I'm talking about the norms and the developmental expectations. For some children, it's not as clear. Gender identity is affected by all kinds of factors. Obviously, the family, what the expectations are, the culture, what their role models are. All of these things can contribute. And there's also physical and psychological factors that impact the formation of gender identity. Some children may not have as clear a sense of their gender identity and may identify as a boy, as a girl, as something in between, or something else. And this identity tends to be fairly stable over time. I grew up in a fairly conservative environment and culture where there were only 2 options. I've learned as a psychologist that in terms of gender identity, and we'll talk about gender roles in a minute too, but in terms of gender identity, there tends to be a distribution. Let me show you what I mean. I've drawn this beautiful graph for you that shows 2 curves, a feminine curve depicted here in red and a masculine curve depicted here in blue. What I'm talking about are traits or characteristics, and we can apply this also to gender roles or stereotypes, where there tends to be a feminine side and a masculine side. Now you'll see that on the feminine side, the curve peaks here, which are traits and characteristics that would be typically or stereotypically feminine, and it trails off into some traits that are overlapping with the blue curve, the masculine curve. So these are traits that could be either feminine or masculine, and we're calling that androgynous. You've probably heard that term before as well. In terms of gender identity, there are some who clearly identify on the female side. There are others who clearly identify on the masculine side, and there's no question. It's those that are in this middle category that seem to have some sense of being somewhere in between or something else. Now, how does this relate to gender roles? Some roles or activities have traditionally been associated with feminine. Other roles have traditionally or stereotypically been identified with masculine. This comes from our culture, from the media, from environmental or biological factors that contribute. When it comes to helping our children with their own gender identity and their own gender roles, I think it's good for us as parents to develop a culture of openness and acceptance. The statistics are really alarming about how children fare if they are confused about or don't fit into the cultural norms for their gender identity or the gender roles that they choose. In fact, there's a very high suicide rate among children and teens and adults who have gender identity issues. As we develop a culture of acceptance instead of judgment, every child needs to feel loved and accepted. You'll remember, if you've watched this channel very long, that your job as a parent is to love them no matter what, and even if. What if we could boost our children's self-esteem? In fact, I want you to watch another video right after you finish this one. It's called Ways to Boost a Child's Self-Esteem. You can link to it right up there in the card. Parents can contribute to healthy gender identity and role development by creating a diversity-rich experience. You might, for example, make toys available that are typically associated with either gender to all of your children, and allow them to explore the diverse interests and roles that they might be able to adapt as a person. Again, all children have a right to be treated with kindness and love and acceptance and openness without any feeling of being excluded or bullied. Thank you for being such a conscious, positive parent. The fact that you found this video shows that you're looking for ways to help your children. Please spend some time in the Positive Parenting playlist here on the channel. You're going to find dozens, maybe even hundreds of videos there that will help you in your role as a parent. Her head was down, face locked onto the phone. And I wished